Please welcome Loren Hiller, the Senior Commercial Officer for the Marine Stewardship Council. Over to you, Loren.
Thank you. I've just shared my screen. Will you let me know when you can see it, if it's appeared on the screen?
It's
Perfect.
here.
Brilliant. Well, hello everyone. Thank you to JJ Food Service for having me again. Super excited to be back for this event. Really enjoyed it last year. Just a shame we all can't do it in person again this year, but I hope everyone is well. And yeah, great to be here together as the group. My name is Loren Hiller. I'm a Senior Commercial Officer at the MSC, or the Marine Stewardship Council, and my role is working with businesses throughout the supply chain and supporting them on their sustainability journey and sustainable sourcing. For those who don't really know about the MSC or aren't fully aware of us, we're an international non-profit organisation whose vision is the world's oceans teeming with life and seafood supply safeguarding for this and future generations. We have a label that businesses use to demonstrate sustainability through our chain of custody certification. There's more information about that on our website if you want to take a look. Today I wanted to talk to you about sort of the impacts and inspirations we've seen over the last year and what consumers really think about with regards to sustainability. It's been obviously an extraordinary year. COVID has completely turned the world upside down and wreaked terrible loss, and unfortunately catalysed a big economic crisis. And I'm sure it will continue to pose challenges as we adjust to that new normal and are far from stable reality. But with that, I do think that the demand for seafood continues to rise. Unfortunately, many of the world's fisheries still remain overfished. And that's particularly important as many people rely on fish as their main source of protein, and it's a livelihood for many across the UK and globally as well. But with this crisis, it's also a super important opportunity, a once in a lifetime opportunity to sort of, for us as a humanity, to reboot and really think about what we have and what we value, and to shift what we have into a more sustainable footing. The seafood industry has faced a super big challenge over the last year, and I think it will continue to face a challenge, what with the pandemic. And the initial impact of the pandemic on the global fishing industry was devastating. We had vessels not being able to go out to fish, some fleets had to be tied up, and even when fishing was possible, disruption in the supply chains meant that for some, with the loss of the market, there wasn't really any point in going fishing, which is really disappointing and hard for fishermen, fisherwomen, and it's their livelihoods really. And with this, whilst the severity and duration of the initial impact of the pandemic varied across the supply chain and different regions of the UK as well, the long-term industry did remain to be seen. I think the industry really did respond quickly. They were innovative, adapting to ensure that customers could still have access to sustainable seafood. And the sustainable seafood industry continues to come up with novel ways to continue to provide seafood to millions of people around the UK and globally as well. We adapted to that new normal, as time has gone on, and we've seen a shift in the industry. We've seen shorter supply chains, so people wanting to source a bit more locally. One thing that to note that we found super interesting at the MSC was that Waitrose started selling clams and cockles. So that's from the Poole Harbour fishery down in the southwest. Really, exciting for the fishery, who would usually sell into the food service industry, restaurants, etc. But Waitrose stepped up and stops their product from going to waste. So we've seen that more of that shift into a shorter supply chain and more local sourcing. We've had wholesalers like MSC certified JJ Food Service who have completely pivoted their business with producing home-friendly sort of fish and seafood packs for consumers, so that we can still get our fish and seafood fix as well from bigger companies. And of course, can't forget about the resilient local takeaway at the heart of the community. That's fabulous fish and chip shops who continue to be pillars of local communities. I know I've got a few where I live who've remained open throughout, making sure I can get my fish and chip fix. And the fish and chip shops will go to great lengths to continue to feed fish and chips to their hungry customers. And the response of the industry has been really fascinating and truly impressive, actually, with the introduction of click and collect and going more online and whatnot. And I think the demand for seafood remains strong. with all that has changed over the last year, and consumers are more aware of the issues that we face as a society. And we really have a great opportunity now to reinvest in sustainability as people's attitudes change to where their food comes from and what they want to eat as well. And what we've seen as well is MSC fish and chip shops continue to be committed to supplying sustainable fish and chips to their customers, even over the last year. It's been quite difficult. We actually launched a campaign early last year actually, I keep forgetting it's 2021, but that was our World Oceans Day campaign called Little Blue Label, Big Blue Future, where chippies across the UK got involved. And whilst this campaign was only temporary, in June time, we wanted the theme to continue forever really, and have it ongoing, where we're asking everyone to commit to sustainable seafood and to choose sustainable seafood when they're shopping or eating out, which will have a huge impact on our ocean. MSC chippies across the UK spread the message far and wide, that everyone can play a part in helping secure the future of our oceans. And that's sort of the premise of the MSC programme, that no matter where you are or who you are, you can have a role in protecting the future and the health of our oceans as well. We also launched our first ever Sustainable Seafood Week from the 10th to the 17th of September, which was really exciting for the MSC. This was our first Sustainable Seafood Week, and it was, for us, the start of a nationwide movement to challenge more people to eat sustainable seafood. So our pledge, we challenge consumers to pledge to only eat sustainable seafood from sustainable sources, and the aim was to really inspire and empower consumers in their shopping habits and consumption habits as well, showing them that, I guess, sustainability really does start on the water and ends with them choosing the blue label as well. And of course, we had our fabulous fish and chip partners who got involved, where we sent out physical in-store assets, sort of like bunting, window stickers, posters, and digital social media toolkits as well. And this is just a very small sample of the MSC chippies that really engaged with the first Sustainable Seafood Week. We had engagement through Instagram posts, content on Twitter. Paint and Pier down in Payton had their bunting up in the front of the store. Western Grove in Chester even came up with their own slogan for the campaign, which was "I choose blue, how about you?" So really exciting to see everyone's engagement across social media. And the whole aim of this campaign was to really re-emphasise that shops who are using the blue label are directly recognising and rewarding the efforts that fisheries go to protect our oceans and fish sustainably. And this is a sort of opportunity that these chippies can get involved in, sharing their MSC label far and wide and winning the hearts and the minds of an ever-growing consumer base as customers come and get more takeaways and want to support their local business as well. And with that in mind, I guess the question that I often have and we have at the MSC is, do we think that people will keep sustainability on the agenda going forward even after COVID-19? Will this still continue to be on people's minds, with that shift in people's habits? You just don't know really. But I think the previous slides show that even through hard times, businesses will still continue to prioritise sustainability. I actually read a recent article on the BBC which was titled, "Has Coronavirus Made Us More Ethical Consumers?" And this was looking at research, and it found that consumers have dramatically evolved, and that I think over 50% were reporting making more environmentally friendly, sustainable or ethical purchases since the start of the pandemic. I think customers are more enlightened, they're more informed, and they're also concerned for their children when it comes to the future as well. We know consumers are choosing more sustainable seafood, and last year we reported that consumers spent just over 1.3 billion on MSC certified seafoods, which is pretty staggering, but that's down to the businesses we work with, our fish and chip shops in the UK, and retailers, supply chain businesses like JJ Food Service, who make that sustainable seafood offering more wide and more accessible as well. And with consumers preferentially choosing sustainable seafood, it's more important than ever to be aware of consumer trends, motivations, perceptions and behaviour as well. Now, last year at the conference, I did cover our 2018 consumer insights study. I've got the results of the 2020 study now, which I wanted to share with you all. But for a bit of background, every 2 years we conduct a consumer research study, which is the biggest sustainable seafood study completed globally. So we do it every 2 years, and 2020 was our third wave of the study. And what we're seeing with the results is that there is a clear surge in consumer awareness and activism around the need to protect our oceans and to consume seafood sustainably. So I just wanted to run through with you some key findings from our 2020 survey. Now, for centuries, people have thought of our oceans as a supply of food, for obvious reasons, a useful transport route, and occasionally, perhaps a dumping ground for plastics and rubbish. But human activity has really pushed the ocean, particularly over the last few decades, and people are more aware about the threats there are to our oceans. Now, what we found is that the seafood consumers remain the most worried about pollution of the ocean, with regards to plastics and whatnot, and that isn't surprising given David Attenborough and what we call the blue planet effect. Of course, second most concerning threat to ocean is overfishing, and probably worth noting as well that concern about the impact of climate change has increased since 2018 by 11 percentage points, making it the third most worrying issues. So I don't think it's a surprise that climate change, is a more of a concerning threat. We're becoming more aware of the issues that we do face globally and in the UK as well. Even with some of the threats to the ocean, people still want to eat seafood, which is really promising. For many different reasons. I think reducing the carbon footprint of what people eat. People think eating fish is healthier for them. There is that sort of action or that pledge for people to eat at least 2 bits of seafood, fish and seafood a week. People want to replace red meat in their diet as well. And across our results that we found that health benefits play a key motivator across all age groups with people eating more seafood. We know that these consumers are buying fish and seafood in supermarkets and at fishmongers, but 41% of seafood consumers purchase fish in a fish and chip shop. So a big opportunity there for MSC labelling. But obviously, some people are perhaps more often than not a bit scared to cook fish themselves, but will happily go to their local chippy who will cook it fantastically for them. And with people eating more seafood, we're seeing a new era of sustainability rising with the MSC label as well. And people are more aware. Well, they continue to be aware of the MSC label. It remains relatively stable since 2018. So 44% people are aware of the MSC logo, but they are seeing it more than they used to. And this is testament to the fabulous partners that we work with and fish and chip shops across the UK and Ireland to share their label proud and far. And with that, people want to hear more about sustainability and provenance as well. Consumers want these claims independently verified, and the demand for independent certification remains quite high. We found that 7 in 10 people or consumers want brands and their sustainability environmental credentials and claims to be independently verified. And that's what MSC fish and chip shops are doing across the UK, using a credible and independent logo to show their consumers that sustainable sourcing is a priority for them. And if we know that consumers care about independent certification and labelling, it really does strengthen the consumer confidence in eco labels as well. And lastly, sustainability, as we've seen that trend continue to grow, they are increasingly important factors when buying seafood, and all of the signs that I've mentioned and all of the past results suggest that these trends will continue on as people reflect on what matters to them, and as we place a greater emphasis on our health and well-being, as a consumer as well. And what we can see here is that on this slide that people are starting to change, and the attitude of consumers and industry bodies and government is changing as we look to rebuild our industry, and we can all play a part in that as well. We found from our results that 83% of consumers are willing to take action to protect fish and seafood for future generations, such as where they purchase from or what brands they consume. And this willingness has become action as well, with 52% of UK shoppers having already made changes to purchasing habits in a bid to safeguard our ocean. So people are changing. If they haven't changed yet, I think people will shift into a more sustainable footing as well. And just to conclude, I know I'm probably running out of time now, the COVID or pandemic has and continues to challenges communities and businesses across the globe, and I think it will have a lasting impact well into the future in the UK and Ireland. But I do think there is, positivity to come out of it in some respect as well. Despite the challenges that we have faced, fish and chip shops, across the UK have proven to be resourceful, resilient, innovative. They've adapted, addressed the changing environment, which seems to be changing every other week. Rationalising ranges at a time of heightened and unpredictable demand. But with that consumer demand, I think we still have we can prioritise sustainable sourcing and explore new ways to put that into people's businesses and serve seafood to consumers. And I think, we do have an incredible opportunity to reinvest in sustainability, and recognising and rewarding efforts to protect oceans and safeguard seafood supplies is, future of the essence of our work here at the MSc. So we hope to see that positive shift. I think that concludes my presentation, but if anyone has any questions, my email is on there. Feel free to get in touch if you've got any questions with regards to that. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Loren. Lots of hard facts and stats there. We have actually got a few questions for you, and we are okay for time. So the first question from Jazz is, can anyone register with MSc?
Yeah, any business across the supply chain. So, we work with businesses all throughout the supply chain, processors, wholesalers like JJ Food Service, retailers, fish and chip shops across the UK. So, yeah, anyone can get involved in the programme. So, yeah, please feel free to get in touch if you've got any questions. I'm happy to help.
And another question from Caroline Howard. So, do you have any plans to work closer with fish and chip shops, seeing that most people consume fish through these means?
Yeah, definitely. I think last year was we obviously, some of the campaign activity that I highlighted was our way of working more closely with fish and chip shops. So developing those toolkits, the social media toolkits, in-store assets as well, for shops to really get involved in the MSc programme. Obviously, it's hard, to service everyone, but that's a way that we can get involved, raising more awareness. And out of all the people we worked with Sustainable Seafood Week, the fish and chip shops were the most engaged across social media and in store as well. So obviously we continue to plan to work with fish and chip shops and the NFFF as well, and if you've got any suggestions, would love to hear them, and how you think that we can make certification more valuable and more beneficial for your business as well.
So a question from Sharon Atta. Do you expect Brexit to have an impact?
I think, yeah, Brexit's on everyone's lips as well. I think what we've seen over the past few months as we've left the EU, that it probably wasn't, well, for fishermen and fisherwomen, it wasn't what we thought it was going to be. A key focus for us at the MSc, and what we've tried to be working with government and industry bodies as well, is that sustainability should be at heart of our fisheries bill going forward, and that is a priority, perhaps not as prominent as we would like, but I think Brexit will have an impact going forward. But we do have an opportunity to fish sustainably, and it's a livelihood for thousands and thousands of people across the UK, so it's so important to prioritise sustainability with regards to Brexit.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And here is the final question. What's the date for Sustainable Seafood Week this year?
Good question. I don't have the date just yet. It will be in September again, hopefully around the same time, but we'll be in touch as soon as we've got our next Sustainable Seafood Week dates, but hopefully in September time again.
Brilliant, thanks very much. Thanks so much, Loren, that's fantastic.